So in my last few videos, I've been talking about building a PC. However, I put a cost in terms of your power supply that a lot of people have some issues with. I said for $40, you can buy yourself a good power supply. Many have basically chalked this up to being a cheap PSU, judging by some of the comments I've seen in my videos. I've responded to some of them, but I think if we actually make a video, it will probably help us. So how do you choose a power supply? If you're building a PC and you look at my numbers, $500 PlayStation, $160 for extra cost of games for 4 years. If you pay $10 more, which you are, some cases 15, I made a video specifically to that. Check the link in the description. And if you pay for your PlayStation Plus, you're doing about $840 minimum, even more. In fact, when I did the calculation from a much bigger spender, it's close to $900 or $1,000. So I went ahead and built a PC for about $661 using, at first, an RTX 3060, and then I was like, a 6750 XT will just basically close the case. It's a better, GPU than that's in the PS5. The PS5 has a 6700 non-XT, so we're already ahead in the GPU side. On the CPU side, the Series X uses a 4800S. This CPU is a Ryzen 5 5500, so we're also ahead of the curve. Now let's look at the PSU thing and be very careful with it, because power supplies are something that I think are emotional and scientific for many people. For me, it's purely scientific. Why would I bother with the emotion? And the moment I learned that it was purely scientific, I was already happy because I knew I didn't have to buy into what I think and what is largely believed to be right now, I wouldn't say believed, but what is right now shown to be a myth, that you need a expensive power supply, or that a power supply, because of its cost, is cheap and could basically ruin your system. Now, let's bust that myth wide open. You choose a power supply by actually using, one of the first ways is by using a power supply calculator. This is basically something that will give you the metrics that you need to be able to go ahead and select how much power you actually need for your build. It takes estimates of different components, sometimes the specific water draw of some of the components, and is able to go ahead and get you the exact amount of power supply that you actually need in terms of your build. So if you actually want to run, say, this particular build with the 6750 XT, your power supply usage is going to be somewhere around 500 to about 650 watts, depending on what it is that you're going for. So you can come in here, you can put everything in here. You could do your 8 gig RAM modules, which is basically what I have here. I have a 1 terabyte solid state drive, and I have another 1 terabyte solid state drive, and that's basically all that's in the system. Literally. I mean, it's not even asking me for my mouse and keyboard, because those draw very negligible amounts of power compared to the main components. This is Newegg's power supply. They have no skin in the game, right? However, if you notice that you have about 60, extra, you can say, okay, I can stick with 650. Or maybe if you want, if you say, okay, oh, my heart, I can't take it. It's okay. Go ahead and buy yourself a 700 watt power supply for $54.99. Now, here's the catch. A lot of people are saying that this power supply is cheap, but they're not looking at the fact that the power supplies should be a quality power supply that is actually rated. And the rating is the most important thing. These power supplies that I've actually put out here are rated on the 80+ rating system. Let's go ahead and also debunk the myth that you actually need more power supply, because this is something I learned when I started building in 2016. This article was written here on Tech by Christopher Katzer. He says this in the article. You might want to read it for yourself, but there's a statement that he goes here. He says, if people really took the time to examine system power requirements, we would see a tremendous increase in the sales of 300 watt to 400 watt PSUs. This was in around, that 2008 time when people were basically buying into the myth. Those components did not have that power draw, but this whole PSU myth has been a thing for a long time. And he says that the truth is that even that the vast majority of systems would run optimally with such a small, in quote, power supply. Even if you're running SLI or Crossfire, this is a system where people used to double their GPUs to gain more power, AMD and NVIDIA. You don't actually need a 750 watt power supply. This is back then, by the way. Some new PC components of today with their graphical, capabilities do need at least 750. We'll talk about that here in a bit. Of course, we recommend purchasing a good quality power supply. That's all I recommend, as there are certain 750 watt PSUs out there that can't reliably deliver anywhere near that much power. And to help dispel this, they put together some charts. So you could basically look at the GPUs, look at their power draw at idle and at full load, and you'll be able to tell, oh, this is what it is. That's what the PSU calculators do. You can use multiple PSU calculators if you want to basically check your data and be certain, and maybe choose a point that's actually good for you. Now, what is this quality thing that I'm talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at your power supplies, they have something that you're going to see that says 80 plus certified. In some cases, they will say 80 plus bronze, 80 plus gold, if you look at, say, Corsair, and so on and so forth. However, the certification is the main thing, where if you come and look at the certification system, it's simply a voluntary certification program that PSU manufacturers can participate in to prove the efficiency of their units. For a unit to be considered for certification at all, it must achieve at least 80% efficiency at 20%, 50%, and 100% loads, and feature a power factor of at least 0.9 at 100% load. So if you want, you can take a PSU recommendation, add an extra 20% to it. That's basically what it is that you would love to see in your power supply purchase. It's a simple engineering reality. And so here is what the chart looks like. And it shows if you're a gold, you're now getting more in terms of, say, your efficiency at these different loads. So ladies and gentlemen, the facts, they speak for themselves. If you buy yourself a 3060 and you put it on this build, like I first recommended, you're not going to be needing a $100 power supply or a $90 power supply, except you just want to buy one. Once it meets the quality certification and the quality check, that's basically what you need, because this is something that they've basically taken to prove, unless you buy yourself a defective unit. Now, what kinds of builds would need a PSU that is actually, quite bigger in terms of wattage? Well, a 6800 XT, depending on the brand that you buy, some of them are very power, hungry. The 6800 XT that I have, you can overclock it. It's an MSI Gaming X Trio or Gaming Z. I can't remember, but the X and the Z, I've actually kind of like seen both of them. They look almost alike, but one of them uses a 2-pin, an 8-pin, and then the other one uses like an extra set of pins, and it needs more power. In some cases, some GPUs will draw that much power in terms of your build, but I've not recommended a build that actually requires that much power draw. I've specifically said you could just spend $40. I never even recommended a power supply. This is the first time I'm actually making a video on a power supply. And all I'm saying, and all anybody in the engineering or even in the regular building space will say to you, is buy yourself a quality power supply. So if you feel like you're not comfortable with, a $40 power supply because of the cost, or because the certification is just 80 and you want 80 gold or 80 bronze or whatever it is, by all means, go ahead and buy yourself 80 gold and 80 bronze. Now, have I ever used this particular power supply? I want to make sure that we try and answer as many questions as we can. The answer is yes. I made a build for back in the day in 2019, and it uses the 700 watt power supply. The build is still running till date. If you want to see the receipts on Amazon, if you want to actually check this particular build, I can give you all the details. The computer is still running fine. So let us calm down, let us be honest, and let us follow the scientific data, and just tell ourselves that it's just a matter of convenience more than anything else. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to be able to kind of serve you in this way. I'm excited. I want to talk about this stuff more and more. And if there are any, comments or any concerns or any, things that may be skeptic towards this, let us continue talking about it. This is exactly how we're going to know what is, in terms of reality, and what isn't in terms of basically myth and stuff that people make up. Thanks once again. Peace out.